Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast. I'm Emily, and joining me as always is the incredibly insightful Mark. Thank you all for tuning in. Today's topic is one we encounter every day, often without even thinking about it. Mark, tell our listeners what we'll be diving into today.
Hey everyone! Today's episode is all about introductions. Think about it. Whenever you meet someone new, whether it's a neighbor, a coworker, or a friend of a friend, there's that moment where you need to introduce yourself. But how do you do it naturally and politely, especially if you're in a casual setting? Well, that's exactly what we're exploring today, how to greet and introduce yourself casually and politely. We're going to share specific examples, break down the nuances of various greetings, and give you tools to feel more confident the next time you find yourself in this situation.
Right. So, by the end of this episode, you'll have a deeper understanding of why greetings matter so much. Plus, you'll know some tried and true phrases for different scenarios. We'll also get into some cultural and social contexts for greetings, because sometimes what's polite in one place might feel too formal or casual somewhere else.
We'll give you examples of both casual and polite greetings, and we'll even have a mini conversation with each other to show you exactly how you might approach different situations. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's get started with some helpful tips.
All right, let's start by discussing why greetings are so important. Think about it. When you first meet someone, that greeting and introduction is the first impression. You might only have a few seconds to establish a vibe, right? If you're overly formal, people might feel a bit stiff. But if you're too casual, it might come off as disrespectful.
Exactly. And one of the main goals in a casual introduction is to be approachable. You want the other person to feel comfortable and at ease with you. For example, if you're introducing yourself to someone at a friend's party, you'll want to say something like, "Hi, I'm Mark. It's great to meet you." Now, this sounds simple, but the way you say it, your tone, your eye contact, even your body language, can make a big difference.
And let's add to that. When you're meeting someone new, a big part of a good introduction is showing genuine interest in the other person. Something like, "Hi, I'm Emily. So nice to meet you. How do you know our mutual friend?" This brings the other person into the conversation immediately, making it easier for them to feel connected.
Yes, absolutely. Let's say you're meeting someone at a networking event. Even though it's casual, a simple handshake or a friendly nod can set a respectful tone. Something like, "Hi, I'm Mark. I work in your field. What about you?" Or even, "What brings you here today?" These questions make the conversation feel easy and natural without sounding rehearsed or forced.
And that's a great point, Mark. Sometimes the difference between a good introduction and an awkward one is asking questions that let the other person share something about themselves. That way, they feel seen and included in the conversation. You're not just talking at them, you're inviting them into a dialogue. Let's paint a picture for our listeners. Imagine you're at a friend's party and they introduce you to someone new. Here's how a natural, polite introduction might go.
Hi there. I don't think we've met yet. I'm Lisa.
Hey, Lisa. Nice to meet you. I'm Alex.
Nice to meet you too, Alex. So what brings you here tonight? Are you here for the networking or just here to check things out?
A bit of both, I'd say. It's always good to meet new people, but honestly, I'm not usually a big networking event person. How about you?
Same here. I tend to be on the shy side in big gatherings, but I decided to give it a shot. Figured it's worth stepping out of my comfort zone once in a while.
I think that's a great attitude. It can be intimidating, but you never know who you'll meet. And hey, you just met me, so maybe that's already a plus.
I'll count that as a win. So, are you new to the area or have you been here a while?
I moved to Seattle a couple of years ago for work, actually. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon, so not too far, but Seattle has been a big change. And you?
Good. I'm a Seattle native, born and raised. I've traveled around a bit, but always ended up coming back here. There's just something about the city I can't seem to leave behind.
That's cool. Seattle does have a certain charm, especially with the mountains and the ocean so close by. Do you have a favorite part of the city?
I think I'd have to say Capitol Hill. I love the mix of old and new, and it's such a lively area, plus there are so many little cafes and art spaces. How about you? Any favorite spots?
Capitol Hill is awesome. For me, I'd say Pike Place Market is a favorite, though I guess that's kind of a classic answer. I love that you can find everything from fresh produce to handmade art, and the energy there is just unique.
Pike Place is classic for a reason. There's always something new to discover. I think I've been there dozens of times, and it still surprises me. So, Alex, what do you do for work? You said you moved here for a job. What line of work are you in?
I'm a software developer for a tech company downtown. It's mostly web development, and I work with a team on designing and implementing software for local businesses. It's challenging but rewarding. How about you?
I'm in marketing. I work as a brand strategist for a small agency. It's a lot of planning, analyzing, and creating. I love that I get to combine creativity with strategy.
That sounds fascinating. Do you work mostly with the local businesses too?
Mostly, yes. We've worked with a lot of small brands around Seattle, helping them define their brand identity and reach new audiences. It's really rewarding to see a brand go from concept to launch.
I can imagine. It sounds like you're building something from scratch in a way. I feel like marketing and tech intersect a lot these days.
Bloody. Definitely. It's all about reaching people in unique ways, and technology is essential for that. What's your favorite part of working in tech?
For me, it's the problem-solving aspect. Every day brings a new challenge, and I love that feeling of cracking a code or finding a solution. It's like a puzzle that just needs the right pieces.
That sounds really fulfilling. I love that about my work too, the feeling of making something fit. I think, in a way, marketing is like solving a puzzle with people instead of code. We're trying to understand what people need and how to communicate it to them.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. It sounds like we approach things from similar perspectives, even though our fields are so different.
Speaking of challenges, is there anything you're hoping to achieve in the next few years? Any big goals?
Yeah, actually. I've been toying with the idea of getting into travel photography or freelance work. I'd love to combine my love for tech with seeing new places, maybe work remotely and spend time exploring different cultures. It's a bit of a big dream, but I think it could be amazing.
That sounds incredible. I think it's great to have big dreams like that. I've always wanted to work on a big campaign for a brand I love, to see a project I'd worked on out in the world, connecting with people. It would be so rewarding. Do you have any steps in mind for your goal?
I think I'd start by working on my photography portfolio and building up some freelance contacts. I'll admit, though, the thought of freelancing full-time is a bit scary.
I get that. It's definitely a leap. But starting small, like you said, sounds smart. I think sometimes the biggest dreams are the ones we're a little scared of.
So true. What about you? Any specific steps toward that dream campaign?
I've been taking on more leadership roles within my team and learning more about digital advertising. I want to get to a place where I can lead a campaign from start to finish. It's challenging, but I think it's doable.
That sounds like a perfect approach. You seem really passionate about what you do.
Thanks, Alex. I think passion makes a big difference. Speaking of that, what would you say is one thing you value most in life?
That's a big question, but I'd have to say curiosity. I feel like curiosity is what keeps life interesting and helps us grow. I want to keep learning and exploring, even outside of work. What about you?
For me, I'd say connection. I love the feeling of truly connecting with someone, whether it's in a friendship, family, or work. I think that's what keeps me going, especially in a field like marketing where understanding people is key.
That's such a great value to have. I feel like true connection can be rare these days, with everything moving so fast. It's nice to be reminded of what matters.
I agree. That's why I try to make time for things like catching up with friends over coffee or spending time outdoors. How about you? Do you have any routines that help you stay grounded?
Definitely. I make it a point to go on a photo walk every weekend, even if it's just for an hour. It helps me clear my head and appreciate my surroundings. Photography has become a bit of a meditation for me.
That sounds so peaceful. I love that you have that ritual. I find hiking does that for me. Being in nature just brings me back to a calm place.
I've heard Washington has some incredible hikes. Do you have a favorite spot you like to hike?
Mount Si is probably my favorite. It's challenging, but the view from the top is worth it every time. How about you? Do you take any trips for photography?
I try to. I've been to a few national parks, like Olympic National Park. I'd love to do an international photography trip someday, maybe Europe or Japan. There's so much to capture.
Japan would be amazing. I went there once on a trip and it was so inspiring. The culture, the scenery, it's like stepping into a different world.
That's awesome. What was your favorite part of the trip?
No, probably Kyoto. There's this beautiful blend of old and new there, and the temples and gardens are just breathtaking. Plus, the food was incredible. Have you traveled much internationally?
Not as much as I'd like, but I've been to Italy, which was amazing. The history there is mind-blowing. I'd love to see more of Europe and Asia. Any travel plans for you in the future?
I'd love to visit New Zealand one day. The landscapes look unreal, and it just seems like such a peaceful place. I'm hoping to make it happen in the next couple of years.
New Zealand would be amazing. I feel like you'd love the scenery there. Perfect for hiking and photography.
So, if you could describe your ultimate dream life, what would that look like?
I think it'd be a mix of travel, creative work, and meeting new people. I'd love to have a base here in Seattle, but spend a few months each year exploring new places. And you?
My dream life would include a balance of work and family, time to travel, and meaningful work that makes a difference. I think life is about finding that balance.
I love that. Balance is so important, but it's tricky to achieve. I think it's all about trying, though, adjusting as we go.
Yes, sir. Exactly. And knowing that it's okay to change your goals along the way. We're all just figuring it out, right?
So true. This has been a really refreshing conversation, Lisa. I feel like I've gotten to know so much about you in just one chat.
Same here, Alex. It's nice to connect on a deeper level. Most conversations don't usually get this far so quickly, you know?
Definitely. I'd love to grab coffee sometime if you're up for it. We could continue this conversation. And maybe I could get a few hiking tips from you too.
You know, it's rare to meet someone you can talk to so openly. Sometimes these events feel like everyone's just networking for the sake of it, but tonight has been a really nice change of pace.
I feel the same. I think everyone's trying to make a good impression, and it's easy to forget that we're all just people with our own hopes, dreams, and challenges.
So true. It's refreshing to actually have a conversation about real things, not just where we work or what we do. Speaking of, has there been a moment or experience that's really shaped you or changed your perspective on life?
Definitely. A few years ago, I took a solo road trip along the California coast. I was going through a lot of changes at the time, trying to figure out what I wanted. Spending days alone with only the ocean and the open road gave me a sense of clarity I'd never had before. I think it made me more open to taking risks, like moving to Seattle and even considering freelance work. How about you? Any experiences that stand out?
That sounds like such a transformative trip. For me, it was studying abroad in college. I spent a semester in Italy and it changed how I see the world. I think being surrounded by a different culture and history helped me appreciate diversity in ways I hadn't before. It taught me how big and interconnected the world really is.
That's incredible. Travel does that, doesn't it? It forces us to see things from a different angle, to let go of our usual routines and habits. I think that's something we can only get by stepping outside our comfort zones.
Exactly. It's easy to get stuck in routines, but I think those big changes, or even small ones, push us to grow. Do you feel like you're still pushing yourself? Still finding ways to get out of your comfort zone?
I try to. It's easy to get comfortable, especially when life's going smoothly, but I think it's important to keep challenging myself. Moving here was one of those challenges, and photography keeps me on my toes too. What about you? Are there any challenges you're currently working on?
Absolutely. Right now, I'm working on stepping up in my career and taking on more leadership roles, even though it feels intimidating. I think part of me always felt like a behind-the-scenes person, so stepping into a more visible role has been challenging, but I know it's good for me.
That's inspiring, Lisa. Leadership can be daunting, but it sounds like you're up for it. And from what I can tell, you'd make a great leader. You have this way of making people feel comfortable, which is a rare quality.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate that. Sometimes I feel like I'm still figuring out what success really means for me. For a while, I thought it was all about climbing the career ladder, but now I'm realizing it's more than that.
I totally get that. Success seems to change meaning over time, doesn't it? When I was younger, I thought it was all about making a certain salary or landing a prestigious job, but now I think it's more about fulfillment, doing work that I care about and having the freedom to pursue my interests.
Yes, exactly, and having time for personal growth, relationships, all of that. I think that's what true success feels like, when your work supports your life, not the other way around. Have you found that balance yet?
I'm getting there, I think. Moving here and starting fresh helped me let go of some old expectations I had for myself. I feel like I'm closer to finding that balance now than I was a few years ago. It's still a work in progress, though.
Aren't we all a work in progress? I think that's part of the journey. I'm learning that it's okay not to have it all figured out yet. Sometimes I think life is just about moving in the right direction, step by step.
That's a great way to look at it. I think being open to change and willing to adapt is key. Life is unpredictable, and being flexible makes it all a bit easier.
So, beyond work and photography, is there anything you're passionate about? Something you'd love to pursue if you had all the time and resources in the world?
I think I'd love to start a nonprofit or get involved in a cause that helps kids learn to code or get access to technology. I've been lucky to have these opportunities, and I'd love to pay it forward. What about you? Any dream projects or passions?
I'd love to start a platform that supports local artists and creatives, something that brings people together to share their work, collaborate, and find mentorship. There are so many talented people who just need a little push or the right opportunity.
That sounds like such an amazing vision, Lisa. I think Seattle would be a perfect place for that too. It's such a creative, artistic city. It's clear you have a real knack for understanding people's needs and finding ways to support them.
Thank you, Alex. That means a lot. And I think your nonprofit idea is fantastic. I can see how passionate you are about making tech accessible, and I think that's something the world needs more of.
You know, I think part of what makes conversations like this so meaningful is that openness. It's rare to meet someone and feel like you can talk about deep things without it feeling forced.
I agree. There's something special about connecting with someone on a deeper level, especially when it's unexpected. It feels genuine. I think trust plays a big role in that. It's like both people need to feel safe enough to share.
That's a great point. I think a lot of us are afraid of being vulnerable, especially when it comes to sharing our dreams and fears. But that vulnerability is what makes real connection possible.
Absolutely. It's a bit scary to open up, but it's also liberating. I think that's why friendships can be so impactful. They're built on shared trust and understanding.
I couldn't agree more. And it's funny, sometimes we find that sense of trust with people we've just met. Like now. I guess it's a reminder that connection can happen anywhere, even at a networking event.
So true. It just takes being open to the possibility. I think this conversation is proof of that. I feel like I've learned so much about you tonight, and it's inspiring.
Smiles. Likewise, Lisa. I think these kinds of conversations don't come around often, so I'm really grateful for it.
So, now that we've shared all these big dreams and ideas, I feel like we should plan an adventure. Maybe a hike or a photo walk?
I love that idea. How about a hike and I'll bring my camera? You can be my guide and I'll handle the photos.
Deal. And who knows, maybe we'll even be inspired enough to brainstorm ways to start those passion projects we talked about.
Now you're talking. I think having a hiking buddy to share ideas with sounds like the perfect way to kickstart some new goals.
And I'm totally up for it. Let's keep each other accountable. Plus, I'd love to see your photography skills in action.
You've got yourself a deal, Lisa. This sounds like the start of something pretty great. And who knows, maybe this will be the beginning of some amazing future projects.
Agreed. Here's to new friendships, inspiration, and all the adventures yet to come.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Cheers to that, Lisa. I'll be in touch soon, and we'll plan that hike.
Looking forward to it, Alex. Until then, take care and keep dreaming big.
Thanks again for the great chat, Lisa. Enjoy the rest of your evening. See how that flows? It's natural, polite, and feels inviting. Notice that both people share a bit of context about how they know the host. This keeps things friendly and gives both people a shared interest right from the start.
And something important here. Did you catch how Mark asked a follow-up question right after introducing himself? He said, "So, how do you know Sarah?" This gives Emily an easy way to continue talking, and it keeps the conversation going without any awkward silences. All right, let's break down the phrases we used. The phrase, "Hi, I'm name. It's nice to meet you," is simple but effective. "It's nice to meet you" is polite and shows that you're happy to make the connection.
Yes, and adding something like, "So, how do you know mutual friend's name?" gives the conversation a direction right away. It's a great technique if you're meeting someone in a social setting with shared friends or a host. The phrase, "So, how do you know host's name?" is really versatile because it can be used in so many contexts. You can say it in a casual, friendly way, and it's polite without being stiff.
And another phrase we used, "It's great catching up with her." This makes the conversation feel a bit warmer because it adds a bit of personal context about why Mark appreciates the gathering.
Exactly. And if you're in a business or networking setting, you might say, "It's nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about your work in the industry." This is casual, but it shows respect. Just be mindful not to overdo it, or it can feel insincere.
Good point. And to make it even more natural, consider adding a follow-up like, "What about you? How do you know host?" Or, "What line of work are you in?" Another aspect that can help you feel more confident when introducing yourself is working on fluency. Sometimes we hesitate or stumble over our words when we're nervous, especially with people we don't know. Practicing common phrases like these can make it easier to get the words out smoothly.
Yes, I always recommend rehearsing some go-to phrases in a mirror or with a friend. Even things like, "Hi, I'm Mark. Nice to meet you." Or, "So, how do you know host's name?" This way, they'll come naturally when you need them.
And tone is key. You don't want to sound overly formal, especially if you're meeting someone in a laid-back setting. Try to keep your tone friendly, warm, and genuine. Smiling and maintaining open body language can also help make the greeting feel sincere.
Let's talk about some additional tips. In some cultures or settings, physical contact like a handshake is expected, while in others it's less common or even avoided. Knowing these cultural nuances can make introductions feel smoother.
Definitely. And if you're not sure, you can look to the other person's body language. For example, if you extend your hand and they don't reciprocate, don't worry. Just pull back and continue the conversation. It's all about making the other person feel comfortable.
Another important point. If you forget someone's name or feel like you've met them before but aren't sure, it's okay to ask. A simple, "Remind me your name?" is polite and shows you're making an effort to remember.
All right, listeners, now it's your turn. We'd love to hear from you. What's your go-to greeting? Or have you had any interesting introductions that left a lasting impression? Share your experiences with us in the comments or on social media.
Yes. And don't forget to try some of the phrases we covered today. Next time you meet someone, try adding a bit of warmth or a follow-up question and see how it goes. We'd love to hear how it works for you.
Well, that's all for today's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in and practicing with us. Remember, a great introduction is all about being approachable, showing interest and staying genuine.
If you found this episode helpful, check out our other episodes on communication tips and social skills. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and let us know what topics you'd like to hear next.
Until next time, stay confident and keep practicing those intros. Take care, everyone.